Hi, my name is Charlie Hansen, aka ex-professional comedian, radio TV presenter Charlie Hale. I was born in Warrington quite a few years ago. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but a lot of years ago, to be honest. I was born in Warrington, and as I was born in Warrington, there was only two black families in Warrington. There was the Hansens and the Cumminses. Every face seemed to be a different colour than mine, and I noticed that as a child, and that was something that was embedded in me. I didn't really understand what racism was. I didn't really feel it because I felt accepted in a lovely town. But I did feel I was different. I did tend to feel second best as a child. I was a very, very good footballer, and people tend to accept me for being a really good footballer. At the age of 12, Manchester City, Man United, a few other clubs came in for me, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Coventry City. I ended up going to Manchester City. As I went into Manchester City, I played there for a short while. I had an injury, and the injury just ruined me. My leg was just never the same. I lost my pace. The left side of my leg was never the same. I was asthmatic. I struggled with asthma, but I didn't really tell anybody. I hid it from everybody. I mean, even as a child, I had these things, and I feel really, I struggled then. I only operated on 50% of what I ever was, really. That was very, very hard for me. So my football career was over. People said to me, you should become a comedian. I never wanted to become a comedian whatsoever. I used to go around watching comedians, and I seen the way the audience reacted to them. I thought I'd hate to do that for a living, but a few years later, I ended up doing it for a living. Started a double act called Hale and Hearty. We toured all over the show, Hale and Hearty. And it was very good, but the thing was, I used to tell a lot of blue jokes, vulgar jokes, and I'd hold my hand out and get loads of money. I decided after a while that I wanted to go on my own now. Amidst this, as I started to do quite well for myself, my dad died. And when my dad died, to me, that was the end of the world. I mean, I really couldn't handle it. The day after my dad died, I jumped on stage and kept the pain inside of me for many, many, many years. And I needed to talk to somebody, needed counselling, and I just couldn't do that. So I just kept the pain in me. Life on the road was quite wild. I never done drink, never done drugs, never smoked, but it was still quite wild on the road, touring Germany, touring Northern Ireland, touring everywhere. In the 90s, started to do a lot of television, became very successful actually. And then I changed sort of career really, because what I started to do then, I started to become MC to some of the biggest stars that have ever been on the planet in sports. People like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Pele, all different people. I'd become a personal friend of Muhammad Ali's and Mike Tyson's. God got me to preach the word to them. I used to preach about Jesus. By this time in the 90s, I'd invited Jesus into my life, but I didn't really understand what I've done, but God still used it. I preached to some of the biggest stars in the world. Turning the century in the year 2000, God was working miracles in my life in the way people were getting healed of cancers, people were getting healed of all miraculous things, having new knees, all different stuff. But the one thing about me in my life, I'd always felt second best, and being second best was always an insecurity with me. It ruined a lot of relationships. I felt that people were just there for Charlie Hale and not Charlie Hansen, which a lot of them were. A lot of the women were just there just to use and abuse me. That's just the way it was. That's how the system was in show business. In show business, it can be full of rejection, abuse, lies, but it can also be very good. The fans along the way have been fantastic. The public have been fantastic. But really, the Bible says, 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 19 says, a man is a slave to whatever masters him. Now, showbiz had mastered me. That was still number one. That was the crutch that I had. I became probably the number one MC in the country at one time for the biggest stars like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, things like that. So I held on to that because I never felt I ever was number one. So becoming number one, that was my crutch instead of letting Jesus be my crutch. But even though, Romans 8:28 said God works for the purpose of those according to his will. So God was working things through as I was doing it in show business. But this year, God told me at Christmas to retire, and I knew I had to retire. I knew I had to break all the lies and rejection and abuse that showbiz held over me, because I've had a lot of abuse myself in a lot of different ways. So I knew that I had to break it, because I couldn't switch off. 24 hours a day, I was switched on. Even though God was using me for things, I wasn't putting him first. I was switched on, couldn't switch off whatsoever. So what happened? God got me to retire at Christmas. Now, we all know what happened 3 months after Christmas. COVID-19 came in. Now, God knew that COVID-19 could not retire me, as a lot of entertainers are already retired. I had to break it myself. In fact, a friend of mine, Pauline, she phoned me up and she said, God's given me a word for you, broken. And I knew what it meant straight away. I had broken what was held over me. This is the first time I feel that I've had the spirits of the fruit in all my Christian walk, really. I have a peace that's very, very special within inside of me, and nothing can take that peace away. I don't really feel I had the spirits, the fruits of the Spirit before. There was a lot of anger issues in me, a lot of frustration. It became a difficult time over the last couple of years. I've lost 52 mates, 31 funerals, found my brother dead on the stairs. You know, that was devastating to me. In fact, I remember there was one period where Muhammad Ali's brother had written a book, and in the book, I was in the book, he had 10 pages in the book and 3 stories about me with Muhammad Ali. And when I actually picked that book up, and I thought to myself, wow, it doesn't mean anything because my dad and my brother are not here. That was so hard, just to read that book knowing that they couldn't see it. It was just empty to me. My mum would have, who's not here, would have just smiled at it. But my brother and dad would have been so proud. So that just seemed so empty. The television shows I've done along the way, they seemed empty. You know, I've done 103 TV shows. Everything seemed empty because I wasn't putting Jesus first. I had to put him first, and I didn't. But now I put him first, and I have that peace that passes all understanding. For the first time in 36 years, I feel I'm in charge of my own emotions. So life's going to be good now because God's got plenty of things to do for me. I just thank God for all he's done for me, all the great things he's done for me. And I know that Jesus Christ is number one in my life right now. Thank you.